On an ordinary Thursday evening in October 2022, the quiet suburb of Hedingham in Raleigh, North Carolina turned into a scene of unimaginable horror. Residents who were out walking their dogs, coming home from work, or simply enjoying the fall air suddenly found themselves in the middle of a deadly rampage. By the time it was over, 5 people were dead, including a police officer. And the shooter was just 15 years old. Fast forward 3 years, and that teen, Austin David Thompson, has now been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. It's a sentence that brings closure to some, but for many it also reignites deep questions about violence, youth, and justice. Today we're going to unpack the full story behind the Raleigh-Hedingham mass shooting, the trial, and the emotional sentencing that followed. And this is a case that still haunts North Carolina, and one that challenges how society views crime committed by children. It was around 5 p.m. when the first 911 calls came in from the Hedingham neighborhood. Callers reported hearing gunfire, to not a few shots, but bursts that echoed across several streets. Police would later learn that the shooter was Austin Thompson, a 15-year-old sophomore at Knightdale High School. And what makes this tragedy even more shocking is that his first victim was his own brother, James Thompson, just 16 years old. According to investigators, Austin fatally shot James inside their family home before leaving on foot, armed with a shotgun and a handgun, dressed in camouflage, and wearing a backpack filled with ammunition. Witnesses described seeing him walking through the neighborhood, calm and methodical, firing at anyone in his path. In total, 5 people were killed. James Thompson, 16, Nicole Connors, 52, Gabriel Torres, 29, a Raleigh police officer on his way to work, Mary Marshall, 34, and Susan Carnatz, 49. 2 others were also injured, including another officer. The shooting spree stretched across several blocks and even onto the News River Greenway, a popular walking trail that evening. For hours, residents hid inside closets, calling 911 as police swarmed the area. At around 9:30 p.m., after a massive manhunt involving dozens of officers, K-9 units, and drones, Austin was finally found barricaded inside a shed near a wooded area. When officers approached, he was critically wounded, a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. He was taken into custody and hospitalized in critical condition. A few expected him to survive, but he did. The following days were filled with grief, confusion, and disbelief. The city of Raleigh mourned its dead, and the question on everyone's mind was, why would a 15-year-old commit such a brutal act and kill his own brother in the process? Police began digging through his background, searching for answers. They found that Austin had researched mass shootings online and watched violent videos in the months leading up to the attack. He had also written disturbing notes about death and firearms. The guns used in the shooting belonged to his father, and while it's still unclear exactly how Austin got access to them, the case reignited fierce debate over gun storage laws and parental responsibility. In the months that followed, the Thompson family stayed mostly silent, devastated and broken by what had happened. The community, meanwhile, came together to honor the victims through memorial runs, fundraisers, and a permanent tribute in the Hedingham neighborhood. But as the story faded from the headlines, the legal process was just beginning, and prosecutors faced a difficult decision. Austin Thompson was a minor at the time of the shooting. Should he be tried as an adult? Under North Carolina law, teens as young as 13 can be charged as adults for certain violent crimes, including murder. After months of review, a Wake County grand jury indicted Thompson on 5 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Because of the brutality and planning involved, prosecutors pushed for the harshest sentence possible, life without parole. And defense attorneys, however, argued that Austin's age should be a major factor. They said he had suffered from mental health issues, isolation, and, surprisingly, that a prescription acne medication, minocycline, could have played a role in altering his behavior. They pointed to rare cases linking the drug to psychosis and mood changes. They also claimed his severe brain injury from the self-inflicted gunshot wound left him with permanent damage and limited comprehension of what he'd done. Throughout the trial, Austin appeared emotionless, sitting quietly, often looking down. But the evidence presented painted a chilling picture. Prosecutors revealed that he had researched school shootings and looked up tactical gear and firearms online before the massacre. He also reportedly told classmates that something big was coming. For the families of the victims, reliving those details in court was excruciating. In early February 2026, just days before the trial was set to begin, Austin pleaded guilty to all charges, avoiding a full jury trial. That led to an emotional sentencing hearing that would determine whether he'd ever see freedom again. On February 13, 2026, Judge Paul Ridgway of Wake County Superior Court handed down the sentence. Austin Thompson, now 18, would spend the rest of his life in prison, without the possibility of parole. The judge said that despite his youth, the deliberate nature of the killings showed clear intent, and that the severity of the crime outweighed any chance of rehabilitation. In the courtroom, families of the victims shared heartbreaking impact statements. One relative described living with constant nightmares. Another said they could forgive Austin, but could never forget what he took from them. Officer Gabriel Torres's widow said through tears, "You didn't just kill my husband. You destroyed a family, a future, and a sense of safety that can never be replaced." Austin reportedly apologized briefly, his voice trembling, saying he was deeply sorry and that not a day goes by that he doesn't think of what happened. But for many, those words could not undo the pain. The sentence brought a mix of relief and sadness, justice served, but at an unbearable cost. Austin Thompson will now live out his days in a North Carolina state prison. He'll never walk free again. But his case raises haunting questions that extend beyond one tragedy. Can a 15-year-old truly understand the permanence of taking a life? Or should a juvenile ever face life without parole? And how do we prevent the next teen from spiraling into such darkness unnoticed? In the United States, over 2,500 people are serving life without parole for crimes committed as minors. A punishment the Supreme Court has ruled must be rare and reserved for the worst of the worst. But as this case shows, even with reform, some acts are deemed unforgivable. For the city of Raleigh, the scars remain, not just on the streets of Hedingham, but in the hearts of those who lived through that terrifying night. As candles still burn in memorials around the neighborhood, many hope the memory of the victims will outweigh the name of the one who took them. Because in the end, this story isn't about a killer. It's about 5 innocent lives lost too soon. May their memories be a blessing. If you found this story informative, please take a moment to subscribe, share, and comment your thoughts below. Do you believe life without parole is the right sentence for a juvenile who commits a crime like this? Let's talk about it, respectfully. Until next time, stay safe, take care of each other, and thank you for watching.